The Central Bank of Nigeria today offered 100 billion naira in an OMO auction. Yinka Yomi-Tokosi, lead Asset and Liability Management at Axis Bank, joins me from the banking floor to discuss this and other activities at the fixed income and FX markets here in Lagos. Yinka, thank you for taking the time out to join us today. Let's start with that OMO auction today and just talk to us about how much was offered and what was bought.
Okay, thank you for having me. It wasn't anticipated, but the CBN did decide to conduct an OMO auction today, this morning, offering 100 billion naira. And so what we saw an oversubscribed. So the results came out about a couple of minutes ago. So we had an oversubscribed auction with subscription of about 450 billion naira, and but the central bank only sold about 113 billion. And so tomorrow we also have a normal maturity of about 110. So it looks like what they did was just mop up what they expect to be maturing tomorrow.
Well, how would you describe overall market liquidity at the moment? Would you describe it as robust, or how is it right now?
So market liquidity is about 300 billion up. So like I said, they mopped up about 113, and we do have a maturity of 110 tomorrow. So what we're going to see is market liquidity, but tomorrow we'll see about the same. So in terms of rates, so starting the week it was about 300 billion, and rates were about 5%. So when the OMO auction was conducted, when the notification came in this morning, we saw rates go as high as about 30%, and then after the results came out, rates have moderated to about 8%. So when we get the maturity tomorrow of about the 110 billion, we expect rates to come down to about 5% as well, and maintain those levels till the end of the week.
Okay, let's quickly talk about the bond market. How was it? Was it quiet? What level of activities did we see today?
The bond market has been quiet, so it was actually quiet today. The OMO auction didn't even have any effect on that. So what we saw is some people trying to sell, but there were no buyers. So it was very quiet, but a few bearish sentiments here and there, intentions here and there. But nothing really happened. It was pretty quiet. It was more in the bills market where we saw people trying to, we saw a lot of bearish sentiments because of the auction, so we saw a lot of people trying to sell. But because of the oversubscription, but the low levels of sale, we expect to see a lot of buying tomorrow.
So how would you describe, I mean, the yield curve? What's that been like in the last 1-2 weeks?
In the bond market, we've seen yields inch up slightly. So right now, yields are about 13.6, 13.7.
Okay, now I know that investors are watching, how things are playing out at the global markets, especially with this escalation of trade tensions between the U.S. and China. China devaluing its currency. Fund managers just looking for where to just take shelter, basically trying to make sense of how things are going to progress or snowball from here on. So just how would you say investors, how's the market processing what's going on? And I mean, is there any carryover for emerging markets? What kind of implications does that have for emerging markets?
So what we've seen right now, we haven't seen much activity in Nigeria particularly, and I think because of the absence of OMO auctions. So even the INE market has been pretty illiquid, so we haven't really seen any flows coming in. But with the auction today was still illiquid, but we think that if the central banks should continue, or if we expect another OMO auction this week or next week, we may be able to start seeing some of those flows coming to Nigeria.
Okay, so what is your outlook for the rest of the week? Are we going to see status quo, or do you expect to see something excuse me, out of the ordinary?
I think it'll be status quo. Since no one expected the OMO auction today, but then we did have it. And it looks like I said, the amount sold is pretty much equal to what we have maturing tomorrow. So I don't think there will be another one this week. But where we will see some action will be in the treasury bills market. So I expect that there will be a lot of buying tomorrow.
Okay, what about
through the end of the week?
Okay, what about the FX market? Are we seeing stability? I mean, with oil prices at $58 right now, I'm just wondering, I mean, what does that mean for our reserves, accretion, supply by the CBN?
Okay, so if we see if oil prices continue to go down, then we're probably going to expect some sort of so we've seen a depreciation to be. Rates have moved from about 360 levels to about 362.9, 363. Even yesterday we had transactions as high as 364. So if we continue to see the decline in oil prices, we'll expect the rates to continue to go up in the FX market.
Finally, is there pressure at the INE window?
It's quite illiquid right now, so that's why we're having rates very high. So it's quite illiquid. We haven't really had much activity in that window.
Okay. All right, Yinka, thank you for talking to us today. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Yinka Yomi-Tokosi, lead Asset and Liability Management at Axis Bank.